Parachuting beavers? Why? We'll find out on this week's episode of The Internet Says It's True. Welcome back to The Internet Says It's True, where every week we learn something that sounds made up but is really true, part of the WCBE podcast experience. My name is Michael Kent, and hey there, hope you're doing well. This is episode 252, by the way. So Thursday, I went to the post office. I put in the first 5 copies of my book in the mail. They're being mailed as we speak. That's all the copies I had. So the people who are on Patreon at the $5 or $10 level are going to get those. And if you haven't gotten yours yet, please be patient. I've got more advanced copies coming. If you're not a member of the Patreon, you can pre-order the book. That comes out in just a couple weeks, September 1st. You can find it on Amazon and all the other places. Pre-ordering it actually does help me a ton because those sales will show up as first day sales on Labor Day. And it'll really help promote the book when it goes live because it'll say, oh my gosh, there's all these people buying it on the first day it's available. So pre-order your book now or anytime before September 1st. And my suggestion to you is to buy a few copies because this is a great gift book. And then just hang on to those, when you're doing your end of the year holiday gifting. You can follow the link in the show notes to pick that up. Pick up 5. Also, don't forget your merch. That's available at theinternetsaysitstrue.com. You can read the book while sipping coffee from your Tizzit mug and wearing your Tizzit t-shirt while listening to Tizzit. You can be a total Tizzitter 4 times over. Anyway, let's get into this week's episode. This episode is all about beavers, and the idea was sent in to me from Joe James, who will join us later in the episode. The story sounds like internet folklore. Beavers with parachutes. It has all the ingredients of a meme, a zany image, a tidy one-liner, and the faint scent of exaggeration. But this time, the internet did not invent it. The idea came from a fish and game officer with a problem, a stack of surplus parachutes in a country full of rugged airplane pilots who were already using parachutes to get equipment into remote places. The problem was simple to describe and hard to solve. People wanted the beavers gone from their yards, and the state wanted the beavers alive in the wild where their dams would help hold water on the land. Hauling a 40 to 70-pound sharp-toothed semi-aquatic rodent across trackless mountains is not simple. Doing it in summer heat, even worse. In post-war Idaho, it was easier to fly. We can trace the bones of the plan to a short and wonderfully practical article in the Journal of Wildlife Management. In April 1950, Idaho Fish and Game's Elmo W. Heater published Transplanting Beavers by Airplane and Parachute. That's the real name. Heater had spent years helping move beavers out of places where people live and into places where beavers belong. He was not trying to make history. He was trying to stop beavers from dying along the way. He wrote that the old method, trucking and pack animals, was arduous, prolonged, expensive, and it had high mortality. The animals overheated, they refused to eat. Sometimes they fought so much that even the horses would spook. He wanted something faster and gentler. Airplanes and parachutes happened to fit the bill. Let's take a quick side road to the larger wildlife world at mid-century. The end of World War II left warehouses full of rayon parachutes and a generation of Americans who were comfortable in the air. Smoke jumpers, these are the Forest Service firefighters who parachute into remote blazes, they had normalized aircraft as tools for work in wild places. Conservation agencies were also experimenting with air for other jobs like aerial fish stocking. The idea of using planes to move living things was no longer unthinkable. In that context, parachuting beavers reads less like a gag and more like a creative extension of the same toolkit. Heater was not trying to shock anyone. He was trying to make a risky trip shorter and safer for the animals. So how in the world do you parachute a beaver? Well, Heater starts with the design. The first attempt used woven willow ends on a wooden box. The hope was that the beaver would simply chew its way to freedom after landing. That didn't last because beavers sometimes chewed out too early, which is the last thing you want inside a small airplane. The team moved to a sturdier solution. 2 lidless boxes fitted together like a suitcase built from surfaced boards with drilled ventilation holes. The halves were hinged with long ropes and heavy strips cut from truck inner tubes ran up the sides as like spring hinges. The shroud lines from the parachute kept those halves clamped shut under tension while descending. Now at impact, when the canopy collapsed and the tension released, the rubber springs snapped the box open and out came the beavers. It's a neat piece of engineering, simple parts, predictable physics, and a design that uses the landing itself as the trigger. Heater preferred to send 2 beavers in one box. That halved the number of parachutes they needed, it saved money, and it had a behavioral bonus because when 2 animals arrive together, they're less likely to wander off immediately. The crew did test drops with dummy weights, and then they moved to a single seasoned male beaver for repeated trials. In classic field notes understatement, Heater wrote, "One old male beaver, whom we fondly named Geronimo, was dropped again and again on the flying field. Each time he scrambled out of the box, someone was on hand to pick him up. Poor fellow." It's the rare scientific paper that makes you feel for the subject, but Geronimo does that. After all the practice runs, Geronimo earned a real trip to the backcountry, and according to Heater, his new colony later looked well established. The actual logistics are laid out with the kind of detail that makes you trust the whole enterprise. The team used a 24-foot rayon surplus parachute that could handle about 140 pounds. An airplane carried the pilot, a conservation officer, and up to 8 crates. The drop zones were small meadows cut by streams. The recommended release height was 500 to 800 feet, high enough for the canopy to open and low enough for accuracy. They lashed the crate with cord that would break with the initial shock of the drop, and the rest of the rigging was designed so that once the parachute opened and then collapsed on the ground, the tension disappeared, the box opened by itself. And it's very clear in the paper that the opening was really needed to be automatic on landing. There's no scene of rangers sprinting across a meadow to unbuckle anything. The system itself did all the work. And the results read like a conservationist's dream in 1948. 76 live beavers were dropped that fall with only 1 fatality. A lashing had broke too early on one box and a beaver slipped out during descent. Sadly, that poor beaver either jumped or fell when it was still about 75 feet above the ground. The team adjusted the lashings and didn't have that problem a second time. A year later, observations showed that the transplants had taken. The beavers had built dams and houses and cached food. Cost mattered too. Heater's back-of-the-envelope math estimated the expense of planting 4 beavers by air at $30, 2 boxes, 2 cargo chutes, and flying time. That was 1950 money, and it was significantly cheaper than the mullish road-to-trail slog with, a much higher mortality rate. The story might have stayed a quiet success known mostly to field folks and subscribers to, the Journal of Wildlife Management, but the department also made a color film, commonly circulating now under the titles Fur for the Future or Fur Trappers from the Sky.
Parachutes are attached to cargo lines, and the boxes are stacked in rows along the waist of the plane. 10 boxes to a load, 20 beaver ready for the flight to mountain meadows. The plane makes a careful approach, ready for the drop. Now into the air and down they swing, down to the ground near a stream or a lake. The box opens and a most unusual and novel trip ends for Mr. Beaver.
In the video, you can watch the entire operation, including the moment when the white canopy blossoms and a small box rides the air above a meadow. The footage surfaced online in 2015 and it kicked off a new wave of media coverage. For once, the rediscovered video matched the legend. The beaver drop was real. Let's tighten one key detail because it causes confusion in modern retellings. What happened to the boxes and the parachutes? Heater's article describes a box that breaks upon opening so the beavers can walk out, and there's no instruction to recover those wooden crates. The paper also discusses the parachute pack system that firefighters used because it allowed a recovered parachute to be restowed quickly. That line is about how smoke jumpers handled the gear, not about fish and game hiking out to fetch canopies after every wildlife drop. Neither the 1950 article nor the department's archival film lays out a routine retrieval program in these remote meadows. Contemporary outlets that covered the rediscovered film didn't report a standard recovery effort either. The safe and accurate reading is this: the boxes were designed to be open and to be left, and there's no evidence of any sort of systematic parachute retrieval as part of the operation. We've dropped 76 beavers into an Idaho wilderness, and only 1 didn't make it. The rest set up shop and began doing what beavers do best: they built. After the break, we'll look at where exactly those beavers went, why Idaho wanted them there, what happened next, and how this short experiment earned a strange place in conservation history. We also get to meet Geronimo one last time. Stick around. If you love listening to this podcast every week and you want to show your support, that would mean a great deal to me. You can do that by becoming a Patreon member. We've got members at all levels, whether you want to pledge $1 a month or $10 a month. Just think about the value that you receive from this show. And if you like the histories and the stories that you learn about or the jokes that you hear, and if you think that they're worth it, consider signing up. For that, you get every episode ad-free and a week early, access to bonuses like the unedited videos of the guest appearances, and 20% off all merchandise. You can sign up today at patreon.com/Michael Kent. That's patreon.com/Michael Kent. There was a time that humans used 100% organic products as healing balms and moisturizers for their skin. Well, I've partnered with an awesome company that wants to get back to those times. Fatco sells organic and responsibly made tallow-based skincare products. For centuries, humans used tallow in skin moisturizers and healing balms, but unfortunately, the topical application of these fats seemed to stop around the same time that animal fats stopped being considered part of a healthy diet. A lot of modern skincare products do more harm than good by stripping your skin of its natural oils. Let's change that. You can try them out now at fatco.com and get 15% off your order by using my promo code INTERNET. Go to theinternetsaysitstrue.com/deals for the link. What if your kid could open a box and step into another century? With History Unboxed, they can. Each month, a new time-traveling adventure arrives at your doorstep, packed with hands-on projects, stories, recipes, and learning has never been more fun. No screens, no boring textbooks, just immersive, age-appropriate fun that makes history stick. Whether they're mummifying an apple like an Egyptian, or crafting medieval armor, or exploring the music of the Harlem Renaissance, they're not just learning about history, they're living it. Used by families, homeschoolers, and educators across the country, History Unboxed makes the past come alive with every box. I think it's amazing that I'm personally in my 40s and I'm still learning history every week. I wasn't interested in history as a kid, and I think that's because I didn't have something that made it fun. Things have changed since then. History Unboxed makes learning history engaging, fun, and hands-on in the comfort of your own home. So if your child loves to ask why and what was it like, this is the perfect way to fuel that curiosity. Ready to time travel? Sign up today by clicking the deals link in the show notes. Let's get back to the beavers. The place on the map that keeps coming up is the Chamberlain Basin inside what is now the Frank Church River of No Return Wilderness. River of No Return is an awesome nickname for a place. The Chamberlain area is classic central Idaho country, high meadows, timbered slopes, creeks that need help holding water through the late summer. And in 1948, the drive from the lakeside town of McCall to the Chamberlain backcountry was pretty difficult to do. And this was one reason airplanes made more sense. The other reason was people. McCall and the Payette Lake region were seeing more cabins and irrigation ditches. The same animal that raises a pond for a family of ducks can flood a driveway or gnaw through a fruit tree. Moving nuisance beavers into underpopulated mountain headwaters was a way to reduce conflict at the edge of town and improve habitat far from it. Peter explains the transplant logic with a manager's clarity. Younger animals transplant best. They're less pugnacious than older individuals, and they're less likely to migrate immediately, so they'll give more years of quote-unquote service in the new watershed. In practice, crews aim to plant 4 animals at a time with a preferred ratio of 1 male to 3 females, or 2 and 2 when that wasn't possible. The method for getting them there had changed, by air instead of by mule, but the biological thinking was the same. If you want a colony, you need a starter set that will stay put and breed. There's also an economic subtext to the paper that's easy to miss today. Peter notes that live beavers were supplied by a regional caretaker trapper who had to provide 10% of his yearly allotment for transplant instead of pelts. This is the old language of fur management making a cameo in our story. In that era, wildlife agencies were managing for multiple goals at once: habitat benefits, reduced nuisance conflicts, and a sustainable fur resource. The quote-unquote Fur for the Future film's very title comes from that world. Our modern ears hear beaver rewilding. Peter's contemporaries also heard fur-bearing resource, but both can be true in that time and that place. When did the parachute era end? not long after it began. Heater's article appeared in 1950 and already hints that the technique solved a problem specific to that moment: remote terrain and few roads. As Idaho's road network improved and helicopters became a practical tool for wildlife crews, there was less need for parachutes. By the 50s and 60s, the department and its peers had a more conventional menu of trucks, boats, aircraft, sling loads for large animals, and a growing ethic of reducing stress with fast ground releases. The Beaver drop was a clever bridge from one era of fieldwork to another. Modern write-ups tend to say the method is no longer used, which squares with how agencies handle relocations today. So how successful was it beyond the first year? Heater's 1949 follow-up observations reported that the airborne transplants had built dams, constructed houses, and stored food. These are all signs that beavers had established themselves for the winter and were moving toward functioning colonies. The paper doesn't give a long-term census. It's sort of a snapshot written for managers who needed to know whether the method worked at all. Decades later, short historical pieces would point to the same core outcomes. Almost all beavers survived the descent, colonization signs appeared within a year, and the stunt image of parachuting beavers hid a genuinely practical fix for a stubborn logistics problem. So what happened to Geronimo? The test beaver's brief stardom is one of those details that sort of keep this story alive. Heater's affection for him comes through in just a few sentences. They dropped him again and again in practice, and he eventually became so resigned to the box that he would crawl back in it when his handlers approached. After the tests, Heater says Geronimo shipped out on the very first live drop to the backcountry with 3 young females. Later reports said the colony was doing well. There's no plaque, there's no official biography beyond that, and maybe that's how it should be. Geronimo's legend is best measured by the numbers that followed him: 76 beavers in a single 1948 effort, and a method that quickly proved itself and quietly retired. The rediscovery of the film in 2015 made the whole saga feel new again. Boise State Public Radio covered the story with on-air interviews and web posts. Smithsonian Magazine and National Geographic gave it wider reach. If you watch the archival footage, the most striking part is how matter-of-fact it all feels. The camera lingers on trappers working live capture box traps, on measurements and note-taking, there's a small plane door with a white canopy ready to spill. When the box finally drops, it's almost quiet. The chute opens, the crate drifts, it lands, then the wood pops open, and a beaver joins the meadow. And the narrator doesn't treat this as magic or whimsical. It's a tool. It solved something. And then the agency moved on to other tools. Because this is the internet, we should clean up 2 persistent myths. After all, we want the internet to say it's true. First, that Idaho was throwing beavers blind into trees. The rigging and the drop height were designed explicitly to avoid that. The targets were open meadows with water, the altitude range gave the chute time to open, and the pilot enough control for accuracy. Second, that the department hiked out to collect parachutes in some sort of regular program. Heater doesn't say that, and the film doesn't show it. The design depended on the parachute collapsing so the spring-hinged box would open by itself, and the boxes were single-use containers that released on impact. Basically, all that stuff just stayed out in the meadow. One reason the tale endures is that it reverses a common conservation story. So many wildlife headlines describe humans removing or killing animals when they conflict with development. This is the opposite. People in McCall wanted beavers out of their yards. The state wanted beavers in the mountain meadows, creating wetlands that store snowmelt, slow erosion, improve habitat for fish and birds. The solution was not to kill the animals or leave them suffering in transport. The solution was to design a safer ride. And Heater's article isn't just about parachutes. It's a quietly radical argument for taking animal stress seriously. Shorter trips, cooler conditions, less handling, and careful release sites. It reads like compassion translated into rigging diagrams and cost tables. If you're listening in a dry western summer, you may feel how current this is. Today, many restoration projects in the American West work with beavers rather than against them. Some agencies and tribes use beaver dam analogs, which are human-built structures that mimic beaver work to sort of slow streams and reconnect floodplains. Others relocate beavers by truck to headwater creeks. No one is strapping chutes to boxes anymore, but the logic is familiar. Put beavers where their engineering helps water stay on the land. The 1948 drop is a snapshot from the moment when parachutes were the best way to do that in one very rugged corner of Idaho. And somewhere in those meadows, at least for a while, there were colonies that began with a soft thump on the grass and a box that snapped open like a suitcase. The beavers did the rest, and the internet says it's true.
Today, fur continues to be a resource of our country and our time. Fur is important. Conservation and management of fur-bearing animals are necessary. They're necessary if we're to have fur for the future.
It's time for the part of the podcast I call Yap Yap with me and a friend. Today, I'm calling Joe Janes. Joe is a teacher at Columbia College in the Second City. I think there's a new item for him to tell us about as well in this bio. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, Michael.
Have I had you on since I have had you on since we hung out in Chicago, right?
Was that afterwards?
I can't remember. We did a
Is
June
it right
show
after or
together.
just before?
Yeah, we did a thing where basically you put together this awesome show with a bunch of just variety of entertainment, including someone from like the local ACLU came and spoke, which I was really impressed by. And man, that was a lot of fun.
It was a blast.
One of the things that was going on in your life at that point was the river tours. Is that gone? Are we not doing river tours anymore?
Well, so I just got a new full-time teaching position, and
Okay.
I'm still trying to kind of work out what's going to happen here. So the boat tours might go to the weekend, or I might be one of those docents where during school you don't see me and I'm back in the summer.
Yeah.
So still figuring it out.
So what's the new teaching gig?
So there's this organization called Fusion Academy. It's a private school, grades 6 through 12. And I don't know how many, I think there's like 80 schools around the country. And what's really cool about them is that the student-teacher ratio is 1-to-1.
Oh,
So
it's like private lessons.
Yeah, so if you're a student, but it's also a class, and it counts towards your degree. And but if you have a biology class, you meet with somebody for an hour, and then you do your homework on campus. No homework goes home. So you have another
I love
hour that you can stay at the school and do your homework or socialize. So we also want to have, kids talking to each other and doing activities. And I will mainly be supporting students in completing their homework. And then if a teacher needs a sub, they'll throw me in.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
If you're listening to the podcast maybe for the first time, or you haven't heard Joe on the show before, Joe Janes was my sketch writing teacher at the Second City Training Center. When I went up there a couple times, did like the whole summer adult immersion classes that they do, and I did that. It made me better at what I do, and Joe and I stayed in touch over the years, and now we talk about weird facts on the internet.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the show. Do you have a weird fact that maybe I don't know? Now, you did send me one, but do you have an additional one?
I do. And again, I was thinking about the boat. I had another one. I thought, you probably know that one. This one is off the architecture tour.
Okay.
So what's the tallest building in America?
I would guess it's, what do they call it? Freedom Tower now in New York City.
One World Trade Center.
One World Trade Center. Yeah. 1,776 feet tall.
Correct. And how in the ranking, do you know where the Sears Tower goes? And yes, I'm going to call it the Sears Tower.
Yeah, the Sears Tower is well, I don't know. I imagine top 5, but
it is top 5. Yeah.
Okay.
It's the third tallest in America.
Okay.
The second one is also in New York, but I don't remember the name of it. It's like a condo building.
It's probably that one of those really weird skinny cubes that just goes and goes and goes and
yeah. So here's what I find interesting is that Sears Tower. If you stood on the roof of the Sears Tower and you put One World Trade Center right next door to the Sears Tower, and you looked over to One World Trade Center, you would actually have to look down to see their rooftop.
Wait. Because Chicago has a higher elevation?
No, the rooftop wise, Sears Tower is about 83 feet taller than
Oh, because the spire is what makes it taller.
Right.
That's cheating.
Right?
I never knew that.
So yeah, and we have these giant antennas though, but they don't count towards our height.
Okay.
Because antennas are considered functional and added onto the building,
Right.
whereas spires are considered part of the original design. So there's actually a rule that spires count and antennas do not.
So I guess there needs to be a distinction then between spire and antenna. I am assuming a spire is the structural thing that holds the antenna. You know, like maybe a spire doesn't have any antenna functionality. It's just like a piece of steel.
Well, a spire is just a stick.
Yeah.
It's just a stick you put on the building to make it taller. It's like me holding my arm over my head, saying, "No, I'm not 5'7". I'm 9 feet tall."
Which is essentially what One World Trade Center is doing.
Yeah.
It's wow, that's really interesting. I didn't know that. So, tallest building in North America, not counting spires, still Sears Tower.
Potentially,
or that second one we don't know.
I don't know about that second one, but
interesting.
But
I didn't know that.
I will say if you include it, if the antenna height counted,
yeah,
One World Trade Center would still be taller because the spire goes up higher than our antennas.
Yeah.
But rooftop to rooftop.
So in Chicago, Sears Tower and then Hancock Tower, right? Hancock is second.
No, it's Sears Tower, Trump Tower,
Boo.
and then St. Regis.
Okay.
But I will tell you this. The St. Regis would be the second tallest if Trump Tower did not have a spire.
More cheating.
Mm-hmm. And you want to know who came up with this rule?
Who came up with this?
The Council on Tall Buildings.
I love that is what it's called. That is hilarious.
Headquartered in New York.
How can I become part of the Council on Tall Buildings?
You need a cloak.
Is there a council on short buildings?
We need representation.
I did a story once on this show, and listeners can go back and find this. It's the tiniest skyscraper in the world. And this dude in Texas fooled everyone by getting them signing off on the architecture plans. And I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like he wrote inches instead of feet surreptitiously. Like he didn't. So everyone, I believe it's called the Newby McMahon Building in something Falls, Texas. Anyway, basically it just looks like a normal downtown, like old city building. It's not tall at all, but I don't know. It's a great story. It was a story of a scammer, of a swindler. All right, well, let's get into this week's story. Now, normally our first question is all about the topic, and the guests don't know the topic. But in this case, you sent me the topic. You sent me this idea, this story that you found about the Beaver drop. And so you know about it. So I've made 5 questions that have nothing to do with the story that we told. These are all congruent to the story, but not in the story.
All right,
Question number 1, we're playing for a joke, as we always do. Beavers are known as the ecosystem engineers. Which country features a massive beaver dam that's so large it can actually be seen from space?
Whoa.
Is it A, Norway, B, Canada, or C, Russia?
Wow. I'm taking a wild guess. I like the country Norway, so I'm going to go with Norway.
The answer is Canada.
What?
The largest beaver dam in the world. It's in Alberta. Stretches 2,600 feet long. And it was first spotted in satellite images in 2007, which I believe is where it was first noticed, was from the satellite images.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, they may have seen it, but never knew that it was 2,600 feet contiguous. So, yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And now, I and probably listeners are going to get onto Google Maps, because I'm a Google Maps junkie, and look for it.
So. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. All right, go Beavers, man.
I guess so. I mean, and I'm curious whether this this can't be the same beaver, right? It's got to be teamwork. It's got to be a team of beavers.
It's got to be teamwork, but man, what organization?
That's the Council for Beaver Building, Dam Building. The Council for Long Dams. That's what it is. You have a joke for us?
Well, you know what? Yeah, I'll use. This is not in any way original. I'm not sure where it comes from, but this is actually something we use in Second City classes to as an example for joke structure.
Okay.
It's a one-liner. But the setup and punchline, of course, is all in like one sentence. My grandfather died peacefully in his sleep. However, all the children on the bus died screaming.
That's great. That's great. That's great. So I remember, you describing good joke structure as like, going down a road and then taking a sharp left turn. And my favorite, and so whenever I'm writing material and it's a joke style line, I'm always struggling to try to put that left turn or that punch as close to the end of the sentence as I possibly can. Mm-hmm. And the best example I've ever seen of this is a physical, it's a visual joke. It doesn't work on a podcast format, but Brian Regan has this bit where this was probably in the 90s, where he's walking around crunched down with his arms out very slowly.
That's a very Brian Regan.
Yeah.
Posture.
And he goes, the only time you can walk around like this and not look like an idiot is when you're in a pool. It's the perfect joke because you do not see that coming. No. And then the very last word. I'm gonna have to try to find that clip. It's just like, it's my favorite example of like just solid joke writing.
Oh my God, he's brilliant. He's like for some reason he's delegated to a comedian kind of status,
which is crazy. But I mean, I think that's only because of the time that he came. Like if Brian Regan hit his most popular, I don't know where he ranks in terms of like popular culture and people knowing about Brian Regan. But I feel like if he rose to fame in the internet age, he wouldn't be a comedian's comedian. He'd be an everyone's comedian.
Yeah.
But when I was coming up and MySpace was the big thing, Dane Cook was on top of the world, and Dane Cook's delivery was Brian Regan. Yeah. Dane Cook was using Brian Regan's like speech patterns, and made it like huge. He was doing it in arenas and stuff. So.
I worked with Brian Regan, fortunately, a couple times. This is back in the 80s. And one time we were working together, and where was that? Nashville. And the other comic and I were like, hey, let's go do something. And Brian's like, I got to sit down and write. And so like he really approached comedy like a job. Like he'd work on his material for 4 to 6 hours a day and then do it at night. And that was the week I'm like, maybe I'm doing this wrong.
Yeah. The only time I ever really felt like that was after I saw Penn and Teller in Vegas. I saw their show for the first time, and I immediately, I met Penn and Teller after the show and did that whole thing, and then immediately went up to my room and felt the need. I probably spent an hour or two writing because I saw that show, and I was like, I'm not working hard enough. These guys have thought about every second of the show in a way that I haven't. So it really, really motivated me. Did you ever hear about the Jerry Seinfeld system of making yourself write?
Yeah. It's a calendar.
Yeah. Basically, someone asked him, how do you become a good comic? He said the only way you become a good comic is you just have to write all the time and perform all the time. And you have to make yourself write even when you don't want to. So his suggestion was to get one of those dry erase calendars that's like the whole year at once. And make a big red X through every day that you write. And what happens is like you start putting pressure on yourself to not break the chain of X's. After you've written for 7 days straight, you can't have it's kind of like me in Wordle, basically. I feel so awful. I lost one like the other day, and I had a long chain going, and man, it just made me feel like crap. Except for this is much easier than Wordle. You just write. You don't even have to write jokes, just write.
Right.
Yeah. Let's move on to question 2. For this question, we're going to play for an actual beaver.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if where you live you're allowed to have beavers, but you're going to get one if you get this right.
All right.
Franz Reichelt was a famous aviation pioneer. He became famous for testing the idea of his parachute, which failed and he died. How did he die? A, he jumped off the Eiffel Tower. B, he jumped into the Grand Canyon. Or C, he jumped off a cliff in France.
All right. This one I actually know. I don't
Wow.
know why, but I know this one. It's the Eiffel Tower.
It is the Eiffel Tower. Franz Reichelt was a tailor, and he attempted to demonstrate his wearable parachute suit by leaping from the Eiffel Tower. This is a very famous black and white clip. Sadly, it failed. He did not survive. Now, I learned this when I was looking at this question. He had previously actually had a successful test of a wearable backpack parachute on a dummy, which he threw off the Eiffel Tower. So that's kind of where he had already been experimenting on throwing stuff off the Eiffel Tower, but not actual people. Yeah, the idea of the backpack parachute was just invented. It was like 1911 or something. It had just been invented. And so he tested this, threw it off the Eiffel Tower. And he's like, okay, well, I've built this suit out of all parachute. It should work, right? It did not.
It did not. It did not.
I didn't know. I wouldn't call it a parachute suit, even though that's what, it's being called, a wearable parachute suit. It was more like what we know as wingsuits today, right? Like we see people with wingsuits, and that's an actual thing.
I saw that picture, yeah.
But I don't think a wingsuit, if you're jumping off the Eiffel Tower, unless you got a lot of forward motion, I don't think a wingsuit's going to really work that way. You can't go straight down with a wingsuit.
No.
It's not like the thing about, taking off your suit jacket and jumping off a tall building and then having it act as a parachute. It doesn't work.
And he's the reason they don't let you jump off the Eiffel Tower anymore.
Is that right?
I don't know.
They used to?
They're like, we got to do something here. To make sure people...
And that was the year they put up fences. I have seen videos of like base jumpers, going off of tall buildings, and they'll like scale a chain link fence that's at the top of it. And those videos give me an actual physical response. My palms start sweating. They're doing it right now, just thinking about it. Watching like base jumpers or the people that climb on the really tall buildings, can't do it.
Yeah, they just like hang from something with one arm.
Oh yeah. Oh, like a construction crane. Oh no. Yeah, can't do it. For question 3, we're going to play. Oh, by the way, you got that right, which means you will be mailed a beaver. So look for that in the mail. Question 3, we're playing for a sticker. It's 3 inches, it's square, and it's sticky. And I just mailed out a bunch of stickers because I sent them to my upper tier Tiziters, my Patreon supporters, with a book. My first 5, I sent just 5. I only had 5 copies that I got mailed, and I sent them all out this week. And so I've got another case coming. The book doesn't get released until September 1st, Labor Day. But if you're a Tizitor, you're getting these advanced readers copies. Question 3, playing for a sticker.
I want to sneak in a congratulations. That's really awesome.
Thank you so much, man. It's a huge thrill. It's scary at this point, and I was talking about this last week with my guest Dan Wilbur about how like once you get the thing done, it's scary. It's like once it's about to be released, and I don't know why it's scary. It's just kind of like the idea of like I created this thing. There's a vulnerability that's related to it or something.
Oh yeah, totally.
But I got, I read through the copy that I got, and it's 340 pages, and it's a lot of stories. It's 59 stories in this book. So, okay, here's your question. Beavers' teeth have a distinctive color. What gives their teeth an orange hue? Is it A, carotene pigments, B, iron in the enamel, or C, constant exposure to tree sap? These are all very plausible answers.
Right. Well, I mean, maybe this is not high-level thinking on my part, but I'm going to go for the most obvious one, the gnawing on the wood and the tree sap.
The answer is iron in the enamel.
What?
So, yeah, get this. It's just naturally in their enamel. The iron strengthens their teeth. It makes them tougher than human enamel, and that's how they can chew through wood.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that crazy?
So that's why mine was not high level thinking. That is like a very easy next higher level.
They both make sense, Yeah, all of these, like I said, were very plausible answers. But yeah, they have some iron in their enamel apparently.
So I owe you a sticker?
You owe me a sticker is how that works. No, you have to give me whatever random sticker you have.
Or
I'll mail you one and you have to.
have a name tag.
Why do you have a name tag sticker just like right there on your desk?
I don't know. It was just somebody like left a pile of scripts for me at Second City, and they put this on it, but they just clipped it on. It's not stuck on it.
It's a sticker, and they were like, well, maybe he'll want to reuse this name tag sticker.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. By the way, I love how cool it is to be able to say, Second City left a pile of scripts for me. Like, that's a very cool sentence. Like, who gets to say that, Like, Hollywood actors be like, I got a pile of scripts I got to read through. That's you. That's your life. Question 4. You're so humble. You're not even feeding into I'm trying to feed the ego, and you're just like, nah. Question 4.
You didn't read the scripts.
Were they scripts from, like, adult immersion students like me? You're like, oh, God, I got to read these. I have my scripts from your class somewhere. I have them in a binder labeled scripts, and I haven't read them in years, but I'm sure they're very bad. For this question, we're playing for a copy of my new book, The Internet Says It's True. It's now available for pre-order at your favorite online bookstore. That includes, the big ones, Amazon, Books A Million, Barnes & Noble. It's also on Walmart if you're into pre-ordering books on Walmart. Like I said, it goes live September 1st. The very first animal to ever wear a parachute in an experimental jump in 1912 was what? Was it A, a dog, B, a sheep, or C, a guinea pig?
Oh, wow. You know what was weird? I was thinking donkey. I don't know why. So sheep, guinea pig, and what? Just a dog?
A dog, yeah.
Well, guinea pig. I don't think they weigh enough. So, I don't think you'd get a good idea if it works or not. I can see a sheep like, well, if it's got all the
the padding
wool on it, it'll bounce if it doesn't work. But you know what? It's probably a dog, because I think that was like kind of the go-to animal to experiment on.
This is crazy. The answer is a guinea pig.
No way!
It's the proverbial and literal guinea pig.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this was inventors basically often they tested early parachutes designed using guinea pigs. They were strapped into tiny harnesses before risking human lives. So
they couldn't have been dropped from a plane, though. That must have been like dropped from a step ladder.
They had to have been, and I'm imagining everything is scaled to the size of the guinea pig. Like the parachute. If you put a guinea pig on like a regular size parachute, it's just gonna flop around. It's gonna spin like a fan.
So I owe you a sticker and a book now.
A sticker and a book. Yeah, you got to write a book. Have you written a book? You need to write a book.
Have I written a book?
Oh, that's right. This was from roughly 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
No, like over 10 now.
Oh, no way! I remember it happening. I remember it going through as it was happening. And the book is, for those that are just listening, 365 sketches. You wrote a sketch every day of the year.
Yeah.
In 2015.
Well, no, it was like, actually, oh my gosh. It was like in 2008, 2009.
Was it really? I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember like following along.
It was Obama's first year is the historical thing that kicks it in for me. So whatever that was. I think that was 2008 or 2009.
365 sketches. Do people perform the sketches? Have you gotten notes, like found out that people have been using that to do sketches?
It's been a while, but I've had high school teachers reach out to me about using scenes, and some college folks, and I'm sure like it's out there. So a lot of people are probably just doing them without contacting me.
Yeah. It would be a good textbook for like a sketch class.
It would, but there's definitely stuff in there that if I had a chance to go back and rewrite or not have it included, I would definitely do that.
But don't we always look at our work that way? Like, I feel like that's a good sign. Like, I always hope that I look at stuff I'm doing now and like, oh, that was so dumb. Why didn't I do this? That's growth. It's also the problem with any video I get of my show. Like, if I want to put together a promotional reel, by the time that it's done, I've improved the show, and I don't want to include that thing. It's
right.
That doesn't happen as much anymore because as I get older, my creativity schedule is much slower than it used to be. So. All right. Well, you're 1 for 4, and this last one is for all the marbles. So if you get this one right, it's as if you went 5 for 5.
Oh, excellent. Excellent.
If you get it wrong, not only do I get a sticker, a book, you do get a beaver, which is cool, but I'm going to ban you from the show. You'll never be asked on again. So don't get this one wrong.
All right. Fair.
If you could live for 1 year in the wilderness, like with just a backpack, what's the one thing that you'd put in the backpack? You get to put one thing in it for 1 year in the wilderness. What are you going to include?
Wow, what a great question. 1 year in the wilderness, and I have one thing I can include in the backpack. I'm thinking if my survival stuff was handled, it would probably just be, some really great books, some Dickens, some classics, maybe some sci-fi, just stuff to read.
Yeah.
But if I still have to go out foraging for food and protect myself, then it's going to be like a big ass Swiss Army knife.
There you go. I was going to say a flare, like a flare gun.
Oh, so you can get out of the woods?
so I could like signal to an airplane that goes by. Yeah.
Maybe I'll bring a parachute.
I'm hacking the question. Maybe it doesn't have to be a 1 year. A lighter? I don't know. Yeah.
That's good. Fire. I'll bring fire.
Yeah. You think about fire is one of those things that, with enough trial and error, you could make without anything. You can just make it with sticks. But a knife, I think, is probably the one thing that would be difficult to live without. It wouldn't be a Swiss Army knife for me, though. It'd be one of those giant, maybe a good 8 to 10 inch blade.
Yeah.
One that I can hack a tree limb with,
That's good.
Yeah. So that's a correct answer, by the way, which means that you went essentially 5 for 5.
Woo!
We've erased all of these were hard questions this time, but I hope that your parachute and beaver knowledge has expanded, and I thank you for the idea for this episode. It was a lot of fun to explore. Super weird story that I've actually written twice. I wrote the story the day you sent it, and I was like, that's a good story. I'm going to write it. And I wrote it. And then I was curious about one of the facts, because the first time I wrote this story, my question was, well, did they just leave the parachutes and the crates in the woods?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good question.
And so I asked AI about this, and AI said, no, people went into the woods and retrieved the parachutes and the things. And so then I was like, well, wait a minute. If they went into the woods to retrieve the parachutes and the things, why did they have to drop the beavers in the first place? Why didn't they just hike in with the beavers? And then it was a big question as to actually what happened with all that stuff. And I found out that the information I had was wrong. So I had to rewrite the episode being a little bit more scrupulous about the facts. And so that's where we are. But it was a fun episode nonetheless. So thank you so much for coming back on the show, man. I hope to have you back soon.
Oh, you're welcome. Always a pleasure.
That is all for this week. Thank you so much to my friend Joe Janes for being my guest. Here's the voice of a parachuting beaver.
Thank you for listening to The Internet Says It's True. To listen to episodes ad-free and a week early, support us on Patreon. You can do that at patreon.com/Michael Kent. If you learned something just now that you didn't already know, go to the Apple Podcast app and leave us a review with 5 stars and a few words. That helps us a ton, because that's how the algorithm works. I don't know what an algorithm is, but just do it. See you next week for a brand new episode of The Internet Says It's True.
The Internet Says It's True would like to thank the Patreon subscribers whose monthly contributions help to make this show possible. Sean Brown, Joshua Endress, Dallas Ray, Bryce Swanson, Eugene Anderson, Jim and Joanne Martin, Mitch and Andrew Joseph Kemplin, and the show's official Emperor, Kick Track. The show is written and produced by me, Michael Kent. The theme song is by Finite Music Forge, and all audio clips in this episode are used for education and commentary and used under Fair Use Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107. You can listen to past episodes by searching for The Internet Says It's True wherever you get your podcasts, and you can see bonus content at patreon.com/Michael Kent.